Hey, happy hump day, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're doing well. Glad to see you here. I already got people. Hey, there he is, Chris. Howdy, howdy. Howdy, howdy. Glad you're here. Awesome. Awesome. Happy Wednesday. I hope everybody's week is going well so far this week. Uh, you know, way through to Crypto on the Rocks this Friday, 7 p.m. Yeah. Anyway, I hope everybody's week is going well. And if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, tick that bell icon, click the all, inching ever so much closer to those 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate that. Excuse me. And make sure you smash up that like, smash it up. That way we can get this this live stream out there. So what are we talking about today? Kind of like the thumbnail on this live stream indicated, it's kind of like we need to understand, and I think more people, maybe a lot of the people who are watching this live stream kind of already have a clue to some degree what money really is. But the majority of people just don't. And I get it, man. We go through our lives on the daily, just trying to survive, right? Trying to get by, paying the bills, keeping the roof over your head, putting food on the table, taking care of the fam. I get it. I get it. And while we're all busy doing that, we can lose sight of some of the bigger picture things. And some of what I see as the potential of where they're trying to direct us. So I wanted to kind of put that out there, and we're going to talk through, if all goes the way my my schedule plans, through sections of 3 different videos from 3 different um, YouTube influencers and different people that they're interviewing and so on and so forth. And we're going to go through all that. So sit tight. We're going to get through that. And I'm going to give you my own 2 cents. Yes. That is definitely in the news today, Chris. Personal account, Chris Larson's hacked. It's all over Twitter. That was not XRP. It was Chris Larson's personal account, I guess. Hey, Automatic Beats. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. So, yeah, that's the plan for today. We're going to go over the markets, obviously, take a look and see what's going on in the markets. And then we're going to jump into some of these videos. And as we're going through, I've only got like little sections of each video, and links to these videos are in the description of this live stream. So by all means, head over there and or head down there, and you can follow these people and watch the video in its entirety, which I recommend, by the way. But in the meantime, we're gonna I'm gonna update CoinGecko here, so we're getting the latest price action, and we're gonna put that up on the screen. All right, so let's take a quick look at the markets. Bitcoin 42,861. I mean, holding back above that 42 range. You know what? Okay, so far so good. I'm still like, if you were on the Matrix Money podcast yesterday, myself, FF, we're going through what we thought might be some action going back down. This might be a dead cat bounce, and I'm still not outside of that camp here at this point. So we'll see how things go. It's Ethereum still in that 2,300 mark, still up 3.6% over the last 7 days. BNB still over $300, looking good. Solana is back down a little bit, as you can see, 5% down in the last 24 hours. When we were on the Matrix Money podcast yesterday, Solana was well up over $100 and down below $100 as we speak. Sorry, just double checking comments here. So yep, Solana still overall though up over 16% in the last 7 days. XRP taking a little bit of a nosedive, because originally the information that was put out there was that XRP was hacked, not Chris Larson's wallet, as Chris Hanley pointed out in the comment we just showed you. So I'm thinking that's the reason why we're seeing this 4% almost downward trajectory here on XRP in the last 24 hours. And again, just to reiterate it, it was not XRP that was hacked. It was a wallet, a personal wallet controlled by Chris Larson. Cardano up pretty well, back in that, touching that 50-cent mark. I don't know. I don't know. I still think that's a little too high for Cardano at this point. Just my opinion. I mean, what the hell do I know? You know? AVAX still up over 13% over the last 7 days, and not for nothing, that's with it being down over 3% in the last 24 hours. So AVAX still got some good upward mobility. You know, I like AVAX. Doge just under 8 cents. That's all I'm gonna say about Doge. I'm impressed that Tron here is still up over 11 cents. Is what it is with Tron. Again, that's where most people are using in these other countries outside of the US, Canada, Europe, that kind of thing, are using Tron as their USDT place to get USDT because the fees are so low. Just is what it is. Chainlink still up almost 11%, almost 3% of that in the last 24 hours. 1553 with regard to Link. You know, I think Link, lots of good upward mobility. And yes, Automatic Beats, agreed. AVAX, good project. I agree. I think they've got a lot of upward movement in this bull cycle. And frankly, I think they've got some good things going on, and they're going to be a huge player in this cryptocurrency space over the long term. So yes, AVAX is a very good project. Let's see what else we got. Polygon Matic, you know, I like Polygon, just under 10% up in the last 7 days at just under 80 cents. Let's keep zipping along here. Litecoin, you know, I like it for what it's meant to be. Pay your shit with Litecoin so you can save your Bitcoin. 67.72. That's almost 4.5% up over the last week. Bitcoin Cash, another one. If you don't like the Litecoin thing, use the Bitcoin Cash, 235.61. It's been pretty steady in that $230 range. Stellar XLM. I don't know. There's lovers and haters with Stellar and XLM. I like XLM. Down almost 4% in the last 24 hours, which brings it to about even keel, just a 0.5% down over the last 7 days. Injective, another one, I think huge player in this particular upcoming bull cycle, up 4.3% over the last 7 days, but that's after coming down 5% in the last 24 hours. Crazy, right? Monero, 164.29, up 8.2%. And as we get to the end of this live stream, one of the last things we're going to listen to, and I know some favorite, it's a new favorite of some people out here that are in the live stream, Whitney Webb, on a recent interview she did, where she's talking about privacy and how they're trying to attack privacy. And again, part of why I think privacy coins are going to play a huge role upcoming, if not necessarily in 2024, in 2025 and beyond, as we move forward with a lot of things. Yeah, see, Automatic Beats agrees. AVAX, good project. Good project. Decided to jump on them and crush it. Okay, sorry, they're talking kid stuff here. We're gonna let that ride there. Okay, anyway, so let's keep zipping along here, and that way we can wrap this up and get on to what we're gonna take a look at. Filecoin, again, up almost 3% in the last 7 days after being down over 4% in the last 24 hours. $5 square on Filecoin, and again, another D-pin that I think is going to do very well and is going to play well in the blockchain space going forward. I think it's got the right idea with the decentralized cloud storage. HBAR, Hedera, Hashgraph, under 7 cents, which is crazy. That's down over 5% in the last 24 hours. I mean, I haven't seen HBAR under 7 cents in a long time. I don't know how long that's going to stay there and why it's selling off. I've not heard any negative information with regard to HBAR. But I don't know. To me, HBAR going down like that, great buy. Winner and a chicken dinner. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Old guy on the interwebs. Here's what it is. All right. Let's see. Let's keep going here. Let's keep going. Caspa, got to stop at Caspa. Still holding that 10-cent mark. Yay, Jar. Thinking about you, Jar. We'll be back on the Matrix Money podcast next week. Matter of fact, if you didn't tune into the Matrix Money podcast yesterday, we talked about some giveaways that are coming up on that channel. So make sure you are subscribed to the Matrix Money podcast, because in order to even be eligible to win, you have to be subscribed to that channel. Link to do that in the description of this live stream. Let's keep zipping along here. Quant is taking a little bit of a dip here. I mean, almost 4% in the last 24 hours, which brings it down almost 3% over the last 7 days. And frankly, good buy price for Quant, if you ask me. Another one that I think is going to be a huge player in this bull run. Now, Rune, Thorchain, I'll tell you what, lots of good things going on with Thorchain, and the price over the last 7 days is reflecting that, almost up 16%. If you're looking for cross-chain swaps, this is the place to be doing that in a decentralized manner. They've got their shit together on Thorchain. They just do. Let's see. Let's touch on the sandbox, because this Friday, 7 p.m., Crypto on the Rocks, you can vote for Sandbox as one of the coins that we DCA into. Currently down almost 4.5% in the last 24 hours, and at 44 cents. Great buy right there. And Axie Infinity, there's another one you can vote for. Down 7.5% in the last 24 hours. $7 even with regard to Axie Infinity. And our final write-in candidate that you can vote for this Friday, Crypto on the Rocks, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Beam, down 6.5% just about in the last 24 hours. Just under 2 cents. I mean, great price for Beam, honestly. It's like, holy moly. So I think that's going to do it. You get the idea with what's going on in the markets right now. And yeah. Here we go. Hey, Tech Man, welcome. Appreciate seeing you here. Let's see what we got going. Picked up a 60. Oh, well, there you go. $100. Yeah, exactly. What? Damn nice. Yeah, exactly. All right. I don't want to get too far off track with what's going on there. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to start diving into what is money. And whether you're in the United States, not in the United States, I guess ultimately it doesn't really matter. The way that the global economy is working is, in a nutshell, debt is money, which, quite frankly, is pretty much the opposite of what we talk about, think about, etc. here in the cryptocurrency space, right? And I get it. With that in mind, we need to be able to at least somewhat intelligently be able to speak to people who are not completely understanding. Again, remember, people are just going about their lives, man. They're going about, like, right here, even in the live chat, you got these guys talking about their kids. They're worried about, people go through their day-to-day life, going to work, trying to pay the bills, keep the roof over their head, clothes on their kids' backs, food on the table, yada yada yada. And it's easy to hear certain things in passing, especially if you're watching mainstream media, which, God almighty, why you would just watch mainstream media, like, kills me, because you ain't getting the truth from mainstream media. But again, not trying to get down that rabbit hole right now, but you need to understand exactly what money is. And again, I'm going to kind of bring it US centric here, because at least as of the recording of this live stream, the US dollar is still the world reserve currency for any number of manipulative reasons. But you need to understand that money comes into creation. They're printing all this money. They're creating all this money by creating debt that eventually is going to be paid by somebody. Although we're going to, one of these clips that we're going to listen to, they debate that, because they can print the money in this case, the Fed can print the money, that technically the debt doesn't exist because they can just print the money to pay the debt. But as we're going to go through here, excuse me, we're going to talk about how that creates a debt spiral that our country is not going to be able to pull out of. And I would argue we're already in the beginning phases of that, which is part of why you need to be prepared for what's coming. See my last video, last live stream on Monday. I talked a lot about that and how to do that. And we'll get to some of that at the end, depending on how long I'm already like almost 17 minutes in here and I haven't even started this first thing. So let's get into this, and I'm going to put in my 2 cents and go from there. And right here, Tech Man, I heard our debt is about 100K per individual in the US. Now, you are correct. I think it's just over that. And that's as of this minute. We are creating $1 trillion of additional debt. The last statistic I saw, $1 trillion of additional debt every, I think it's 185, 86 days. So less than every 6 months, we're creating a new $1 trillion in debt that our kids are going to have to pay. Our grandkids are going to have to pay. Yeah. I love it. So what TechMan put out there, that's 100% accurate. 100% accurate. All right, let's get into this, and we can chat about it right here. Now, this first one is from 3T Warrior Academy. Again, if you don't follow him, you really should. Smart guy. Basically pulled himself up by his bootstraps to go from basically dead broke to obviously quite the opposite as we speak here. So, but I don't want to get into that. You can go listen to his whole story, checking out the link in the description of this live stream. But let's listen to this first statement, and it's about 2 minutes long. So let's get it going.
And we need to start to understand what the feds are going to do on the back end of this year. Everybody's, worried about the Super Bowl and the presidential election, guys. The president doesn't make the decisions on a CBDC. The president doesn't make the decision. It is the feds, the central banks that make these decisions, guys. It's the bank of banks. So all the central banks in the world are all over leverage right now, okay?
Yes.
There's only debt in the system. So there's only 2 ways they can fix this.
Yes.
Lower rates, print more money, create more debt, or reset the system. There's only 2 ways. They're not going to reset the system right now. They're going to lower rates and print more money, which is going to make the wealth gap extremely massive.
Yeah, they don't want to reset the system during an election year here in the U.S. Because remember, again, this is unfortunately kind of U.S. centric as we're talking about this. And he's right. There are limited options. And the next video we're going to watch from Mark Moss, or portions of it from Mark Moss, he explains that very same thing. There's limited bullets in the gun, if you would, in order to fix this potential system. And yes, it is a bit, thanks for being here, Makita. It is like the amount of debt that we are in. Again, over $34 trillion in debt in the United States. That's just insanity. And I'm not trying to get that far off track, but I just wanted to point out what he's saying. It is only debt in the system, and they only have so many options to right the proverbial boat. But no way is a good way in riding the boat. So let's keep going with this.
In between the rich and poor. And I'd much rather be on the wealthy side so I can create resources for my people. So let's listen to this first video.
Our next guest is betting that a rally is ahead for treasuries, and we could get a downside for equities. Joining us now, Kamal Srikumar, president of Srikumar Global Strategies and former chief global strategist for TCW. Thank you for being here, Sri. Explain that thinking for us. What would be the driver of those two markets?
The driver here, and I think the consumers are said to be very strong part of the economy right now, Leslie. I put out a report on Saturday saying that is where actually a serious weakness lies. consumer spending is supporting the US economy, but consumer spending has been rising faster than income. And in the 4 largest US banks, credit card loans rose even faster than consumer spending. So the
Okay, I'm gonna stop that there right now, because he brings out the points. As a matter of fact, if you were on the Matrix Money podcast yesterday, FF actually brought something up about the level of delinquent car loans. It's like outrageous, and I think he points to not Carvana, the other one, CarMax, I think it was, in a recent report put out by them. But it's not just car loans, although that is one of the huge things. Because I mean, let's think about it. What are the biggest purchases generally people make in the United States? They make they create debt. You go to the bank, you get a loan to get a home. When you go to the bank, you get that loan to buy your home. What are they doing? They're printing money out of thin air, and you're getting the biggest benefit from that printing because you're the closest to that spigot of money. You're taking it, and then that is what is being used to buy your home, right? And you service that back in the attempt to pay off that debt over 30 years, whatever it is, plus interest. And that is the creation of debt. But what's the second creation of money in the form of debt? What is the second biggest purchase most Americans make? Their vehicle, right? You go out and vehicle prices. I mean, let's be honest, right? They're just outrageous at this point. They're just outrageous. Why? And then we're going to talk inflation a little bit later, and what we're going to see coming, or what I think we're going to see coming with regard to inflation rates and so on and so forth as we go through 2024, and what that's going to do to the economy. And part of understanding that money is debt, and you need to service that debt, and how inflation, how that affects inflation. But again, I'm not trying to get too far off track here. But again, your second, or Americans generally speaking, second largest purchase is what? A car loan. Poof, you've got that car loan, you go buy a car, and now you've just created money and increased the total supply of money in the United States. And until you pay that debt off, that money is still out floating in the system, right? By increasing the amount of money in the system, I mean, we all talk, oh, print or go burr, right? We all love those memes and that kind of thing, because generally speaking, what is the Fed doing? They're taking that money, they are printing money out of thin air, and they're buying these zombie companies or stocks on this or whatever the case may be, proliferating wars around the world, et cetera, et cetera. Again, that's all debt that then later needs to be serviced. Oh my goodness, yet swear to God, I've been drinking, I swear it's only been coffee and water at this point. All right, so let's the next section is, because again, I'm trying to help people understand exactly what debt is, and how it relates to what money is, and how this is going to create a debt spiral. To that end, let me cue this video up to the next time section that I want to have us watch here. Right there, actually. All right. So I'm going to start this up, and let's give this presentation a listen, because we're going to be listening to this presentation in the proverbial box here. All right, let's do it.
As of writing this script, the national debt is just under $20 trillion. It has been a concern for...
Okay, I'm pretty sure that this video we're watching here was created as of the recording of this live stream 6 years ago. $20 trillion debt. We were just literally talking about that. We're at 34 trillion and increasing at the rate of $1 trillion in debt approximately every 5 to 6 months. Crazy, right? Anyway, let's keep going.
Many people for quite some time, but there are some people who assert that the debt doesn't actually exist,
which is crazy. This video was 6 years ago. 20 trillion. I'm going to show you the debt clock after this. You're going to shit.
Yeah, I know.
How much it's gone up for 6 years.
There are multiple variations on the arguments asserting this claim, but they all base their conclusion on 2 points. One, the debt is denominated in US dollars, and two, the US controls the issuance of US dollars.
Exactly.
The logic,
Go
or
burrow.
lack thereof, behind this is that the US can create dollars to pay its debts. Needless to say, there are some problems with this logic. Firstly, the ability to quickly pay off a debt doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Your ability to buy more toilet paper doesn't mean that you suddenly have more of it when you run out. Secondly, the ability to do this is not as simple as it is portrayed, and it is not without serious consequences. What is being proposed here is something I mentioned in part 1, called debt monetization. Debt monetization is when the government creates money from nothing and then uses these newly created dollars to pay off its debt. What this has done is add a bunch of new dollars into the economy. When the number of dollars increases, the prices of everything else increases, which in economics is called inflation.
Right.
The fear behind debt monetization is that it will cause prices to go up, especially for those who are unemployed or underemployed. What really concerns people about debt monetization is hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is when prices go up dramatically in a very short time. Inflation is just the first identifiable issue with debt monetization.
Okay, so I want you guys to hear that part. Okay, so that's what you're experiencing right now. That's why if you made $100,000 in 2020, the inflation, rent's gone up, gas has gone up, steaks have gone up, and now you make about $75,000 without doing anything. So when you're watching the presidential election, you're watching all this stuff happening, like, oh, we're lowering rates, you get super excited. But the environment we're in right now, because of so much printed money, because interest rates were low for such a long time, they're literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. So when they lower interest rates, if you're not an investor and you're not properly allocated into assets and you don't know how to exit these markets and you're just a normal everyday person cruising along with your 401k, you're going to get wrecked.
Exactly. You are going to get wrecked. And all right, well, that's enough of that one. Again, this is the debt spiral. They're basically, they've created money trying to wrap. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around this, because you would think, who the would do this, right? So basically, the Fed has created debt by printing money out of thin air to do whatever it is, okay, to finance whatever. And we find that that's the money here in the United States and across the globe, again, because as of the recording of this live stream, the US dollar still the world reserve currency, right? Okay. So now creating that debt means they eventually need to pay off that debt, right? In order to pay off that debt, they are printing new money to pay off the old money. I mean, you say it, and when you say that to somebody, I mean, what's their probable reaction? Like, you're talking shit, right? That can't happen. That doesn't happen. But yet, that's exactly what's happening. Now, they couch it when you hear Fed Chair Powell come out and talk about this, that, whatever, and you listen to Janet Yellen coming out there saying we can fight 2 wars at the same time. We'll just print money, blah blah blah, and all these things. And they come out and say, well, inflation, we're going to try and control inflation by raising rates. And we're going to talk, the next video we're going to gets into that. I know I'm kind of all over the place. It just astounds me that these people are able to confound the majority of people, not only in this country, but across the globe, by, I don't know, it's almost like they're talking babble and bullshit. And people are just like, oh, okay, that sounds good. Because they're using terms maybe the average person doesn't understand, or they're talking through a policy or procedure that most people don't understand. And it's like they keep it purposely vague. They keep it purposely obfuscated. So most people just like, okay, my brain hurts, I don't want to deal with it. Part of why I wanted to talk about it today, because we need to think about it. If nothing else, listen, you got to do what's best for you and your family, right? I got to do what's best for me and my family. And to me, being prepared to be outside this system for a number of reasons, not the least of which are the ones that were in Monday's live stream. So go ahead and check that out. I'm pretty sure I put a link to that in the description of this live stream. And if I didn't, head on over to my YouTube channel. You can see it right there. Any of my socials for that matter. The stream is there. And, you know, now it's like, okay, even if you didn't subscribe to anything we talked about on that stream, now let's think about they're creating more and more debt. And then they're printing up more money to service that debt. And then when it comes time to service that debt, they print up more money to service that debt. And then when it comes time to service that debt, they print up more money to service that debt. And do you see where I'm going here? And it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And slowly, it's like going right down the fucking toilet is what's going to happen. Now, without getting too far off the proverbial beat and track here, let's bring up the next person I have, Mark Moss. And again, link to his channel is always in the description of all my videos and all my live streams. If you're not following him, you really need to, because he is 1,000% more eloquent at explaining this stuff. He goes through historical examples. I mean, he is as diligent a content creator as there is on YouTube or any other platform for that matter. So again, link to the video we're about to watch is in the description of this live stream. And beyond that, the link to his channel also in the description of this live stream. But we're going to start out by, again, letting him use that eloquence, if you would, to talk and put the idea of this money printing and inflation in the same bucket so it's easier to understand. Okay, so let's start with that. It's not even a minute long.
We're talking about specifically how they've been raising rates to try to bring inflation down. And I was saying how most people think about the 70s inflation and the Paul Volcker and the Arthur Burns.
I remember
how
that.
That's wrong. And really need to look at the 40s for better inflation to understand it. Because what the Fed is doing, they're trying to attack the wrong thing. They're trying to make you and I, retail spending, go down. But the problem is it's the governments that are spending money. And the problem is that the more they raise rates, the worse it gets for the government and the more money they spend.
Okay, what I was literally just talking about, that spiral down, right? And he's right. You know, they're by raising these rates, they're trying to curb consumer spending. The problem is that as a whole, consumers aren't spending a shit ton of money. Yeah, hell, you can't afford to go grocery shopping these days without, like, you know, breaking the bank. I mean, it's just insane. I went shopping yesterday and I didn't come back with a lot of stuff, but it cost me $200 at the grocery store. It's not right what's going on. But here's the thing. This inflation raising is a combination of factors that he's going to talk about here in a minute. And by raising these rates, they're hoping we're going to spend less. But the problem is it's the government who's spending like a fucking drunken sailor, not us as consumers. We, unfortunately, are just going to be the recipients of the pain that this crash and increased levels of inflation are going to cause. So how do you get around that? Again, you need to be prepared. You need to understand that money is debt. You need to understand they're trying to control this debt through raising rates. And you need to realize that them raising these rates is going to increase inflation, which is then going to do what? Trickle down to us who have to deal with it, eventually collapsing the system. But let me cue up the next section I want to have you listen to from Mark here. It's about a minute long. So give me 1 second while I bring that up. Hold on. Let me reset the page here, if you would. And let me see. Right about here.
Even more money. But the problem is like I said, is that as the Fed is raising rates and then the government's borrowing more money, the cost of that borrowing goes up. But it also does something else that's really bad. What it also does is, as they're trying to bring you and I, our spending down, consumer spending down, they're making us broke. So
exactly.
Our houses aren't worth as much. Our stocks aren't worth as much. We're not buying and selling as much stuff. but we're not making as much money. And what that does is then we don't pay as much taxes. So it's a double whammy for the government. One, they don't get near as much revenue, so that makes a bigger deficit. And two, the interest on the debt went up, so that makes a bigger deficit. So now the deficit is going up 2 times. It's like a really, really, really bad situation for the government, which is why all of this just makes the problem even worse.
All right. And part of why you got the US government sitting here doing what? Whoops. Totally messed that up. Sorry about that. Doing what? Hiring 87,000 new IRS agents to do what? Come wring more blood out of a stone, to try and get more taxes because you are the problem. You are evading taxes. You. Not them who's spending like it's their day job, which I guess technically it is their day job, but like, hello, no, they're supposed to be representing our interests. And again, part of what I talked about in Monday's live stream, so please go ahead and watch that. They are not here representing our interests. They're here representing their own interests. And for them, that's getting these entitlements and getting these earmarks and getting all this money literally put in their pockets by special interests. All of our elected representatives are sitting here lining their own pockets at the expense of you and I. The expense of you and I. And again, it's only going to get worse. Now, I was debating on whether to show you this next section, but I think I wanted to put it into perspective and why they're trying to get more blood out of the proverbial stone. The government has mandatory entitlements. So things like Social Security benefits and stuff like that. And that pot of entitlements has grown over the decades. And it's like at an all-time high right now. And the key to this is at the current level of income coming into the government by taxing us to death, they still don't have enough money to pay just the entitlements. So what do they end up doing? We go back to what we were just talking about. They print new money to pay these entitlements. And then that creates new debt. That new debt needs to be serviced. However far down the road, couple, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever, it doesn't matter. So how do they service that debt? By printing up new debt to pay that debt. And they continue spiraling down the rabbit hole. And part of that is stuff like entitlement. So I want to, again, it's about a minute long, but I want you to hear it from him because, again, I think he's just much more eloquent about it than I am. But I'm going to cue that up right now, and we're gonna give that a listen because I think you really need. Ooh, I just had it. There it is. To understand this.
And the 1940s, the U.S. had high deficit-driven inflation, but had a clear way to bring it down after the war. Why could they do that? Well, the reason why is because back then they didn't have the entitlement spending, and this is where the proverbial rock in the hard place comes into play. This is why this time is different. Back in the 1940s, they didn't have the entitlement spending, which is the Medicare, the Medicaid, the Social Security, the interest on the debt, the military spending, all those things. They weren't locked in, and they had a very low amount of workers that were dependent on the system.
Unlike today.
It's the opposite. Today, we have the federal governments have bulged, and we have more people working for the federal government than ever before, so dependent on the government. We also have the entitlement spending, which is higher than it's ever been at any point. And the government does not make enough revenue to even pay the mandatory spending. The entitlement spending doesn't pay that. Now, in the 70s, the U.S. had a low sovereign to debt level of about 30% debt to GDP. That was in the 70s when you hear about Arthur Burns and Volcker. So it had a...
Okay. I think you get the point. I don't want to keep going with that. Right now is not like it was in the... I keep doing that. Sorry about that. In the 70s. Right now, we have so many entitlements. The government has so many obligations. It can't even keep up with its current obligations without printing new debt and printing new money. So again, let's kind of, I know we're kind of pulling a lot of information forward here. So in a nutshell, what is money? In our current system, in our current paradigm, it is debt. That debt gets created every time a loan is issued, every time the government decides they're going to turn on the proverbial printer and creates a new amount of debt. The ability to pay off that debt, then, now again, not personal debt like ours, we're supposed to be responsible to be paying off our own personal debt, right? Which then eradicates that debt. But the biggest part of the debt isn't our personal debt. The biggest part of the debt is the government debt. Hence, over $34 trillion in debt this country is right now. It is more than 126% GDP. That is insane. As TechMan pointed out, that's over $100,000 worth of responsibility to the debt by every man, woman, and child in the United States. Who do you think is going to be ending up paying that off? Well, personally, I don't see how anybody's going to be able to pay that off, but that's another tangent to go down. The point is, the government, the people who control the money, the Fed, are taking this money and bringing it into the present at the expense of the future. And we're seeing that initially, as we saw in that second video clip that we watched, by servicing the debt, and it's showing up in the form of inflation. So consumer price inflation, where everything we're going to buy is costing us an arm and a flicking leg. However, it's not because, the greedy companies are trying to like extract every penny they can from us. It's because the amount of new money in the system is devaluating the purchasing power of the money that's already in the system, because we are in a debt spiraling economy. I know that's a lot to grasp. This is probably a heavier live stream than most people want to like even listen to on a Wednesday, right? You're thinking, midway through my work week, man, just like stop, give me number go up, and Bitcoin great or whatever, and I would love to do that, but I think you need to have this understanding, if for nothing else, to help yourself, maybe help your family and close-knit circle, to help them to understand why doing things like investing dollar cost averaging into cryptocurrency is a good thing, why dollar cost averaging into gold and precious metals is a good thing, why learning to be able to live outside of the system now, so you don't need to try and figure it out later, is a good thing. All stuff, again, talked about on Monday. We'll talk about again a little bit at the end of this live stream. I'm going to queue up the next section because, he talks about what he sees as their next level of potential control and abilities or attempts to control the system is. And I mean, we've seen it in other countries already. So I can't believe he's too far off base. However, I don't know to what level we'll be seeing it here in the United States. Hold on while I queue this thing up. It's about a minute long, and I lied, about 2 minutes long. Oh, what just happened here? There we go. I think I got it. So let's listen to Mark here.
It gets, but if we lower rates, we have a speculative attack. So what do we do? Well, we do what every other country in the world has done, is doing right now, and that is imposing capital controls. And like I said, that is very, very, very scary, especially, you know,
Yes.
being in the United States, the land of the free. We don't want our money being locked down. But of course, this is what they have to do. It's the only way they can do it. It's the only way they can do it if they want to try to protect their currency. Some countries, you know, Argentina, Nigeria, they've completely cut off access points to cryptocurrency because, again, people will trade their currency that's losing value for anything. It's what Ludwig von Mises calls the
Okay, I want you to hear about Mises here in a second, so I don't want to completely interrupt that. But what he's saying, you know, these countries are stopping people from getting into cryptocurrency to take their money and put it elsewhere. And what do you think? Why do you think you hear all this bullshit from Elizabeth Warren? Why do you think you hear all this shit in the executive orders from the FJB administration? They're trying to stop you from being able to get outside the system. So much like I mentioned on Monday, you need to be outside the system and ready to be outside the system before you need to be outside of the system. Now, where he's about to quote Mises here is and Mises was an Austrian, wow, say this 5 times so fast, Austrian economist. And if you are not familiar with Austrian minded economics, you really should be. It is literally the opposite of the system we're currently living in, which is more Keynesian economics. But not what we're here for. That is way too far down the proverbial rabbit hole for what we're going to be talking about today. But you should hear the quote, and then he brings that into the idea of capital control. So I'm going to bring it back to Mark and let him keep going.
Crack up boom. And he says, and then suddenly the people realize that inflation is both permanent and intentional.
Yep.
And then they lose all confidence and they want to exchange that currency for anything they can as fast as they can, and the currency ultimately plummets.
Yes.
Unless the government doesn't allow you to do it. It's the only way to stop it. And this is not a conspiracy. So this is what's been done in the 1940s. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, put out a paper in 2015 titled, quote, "The Liquidation of Government Debt." And it outlines something that we call financial repression.
And you know, keep in mind, the IMF hates the fact that El Salvador is on the Bitcoin standard, or at least accepts Bitcoin as legal tender. Right now, it's a Bitcoin USD kind of thing down in El Salvador. Because why? They don't need the IMF loans anymore. They can basically give the finger to the IMF and not be under their control. The IMF right now basically provides these loans, again, creating global debt to the to all countries across the globe, and then they are able to help dictate policy in those countries, because guess what? You want our money? You do what we tell you. The love of money, root of all evil. But anyway, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but the IMF is definitely not anyone's friend in this world.
And it says that in this paper, quoting it, it says here, quote, "We suggest that once again, financial repression may be part of the toolkit deployed to cope with the most recent surge in public debt in advanced economies." So what they're saying, it says here, quote, "Financial repression is most successful in liquidating debt when accompanied by inflation. For the advanced economies, real interest rates were negative half the time." So what they're saying in this paper is the goal to get rid of the debt is to lock you into the bond market that pays a very low yield when you have high inflation. So they inflate their debt away, trapping you in the system so there's no escape out for you, and stealing your wealth to bring theirs back down.
Do you get that? That's what they're trying to do. Now, some countries have already done this. I mean, look at China, a la China, you know, but they're not the only ones. Other countries have done this already. And you know what? Don't think for one second that the United States, as much as I hate to think of it, wouldn't do this. And don't think for one second that they're not already making moves in this direction. And this last clip we're gonna watch, it's about 2.5 minutes long. It kind of highlights that, and that's why I honestly wasn't even going to include this in this. But at the last minute today, I actually decided to include it. As a matter of fact, I don't believe it's currently in the description of this live stream, so I'm going to put it in the comments here, the live chat, so you can go and see this entire video for itself. It was an interview with Whitney Webb on what Bitcoin did probably about a month ago. And I've come to really enjoy listening to Whitney Webb because she takes things from a completely different perspective, but sees how it all kind of ties into the monetary system. And I think, or I'm hoping, that as you listen to this next clip, you understand how all of what we've talked about, how they create debt is money, and how they create the debt, and then how they service the debt by creating more debt, and then service that debt by creating more debt, and so on and so on and so on, and eventually putting themselves to the situation where they are now, where we're starting to see the repercussions of that and increased inflation rates. And then what are they going to do? My prediction is they're going to be lowering inflation rates. They're going to lower inflation rates later this year. We're going to have the Fed come out, woo, and everybody's going to be all happy, presidential election, yada, yada. Oh, baby, we're going to begin lower inflation, which is going to do a couple of things. It's going to take real world assets. It's going to move it up, right? The prices are going to go through the roof. We're going to see, now we got a Bitcoin halving coming. I get that part, but Bitcoin's going to go through the roof. Speaking of Bitcoin halving, I'm definitely going to be doing that watch party for the Bitcoin halving. So pay attention as we get closer, and I'll give you more details on that. Right now, it's around April 20th for that block. To when that block is going to happen. So stay tuned as we get closer. We'll talk about that, but I'd love to have you there. We're going to do it live, and hopefully I can get some people to come on live. Matter of fact, maybe even you'll come on live. I'm not sure how I'm going to run that yet. Details are coming, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, so what's going to happen? Things like cryptocurrency are going to pop. Real estate prices going to pop. All this stuff is going to look like, yay, they lowered interest rates, and guess what? Everything is going to be great. 420. Yes, exactly. Automatic beats. I love it, man. Thank you. You got to bring the humor here. This is a topic that is not very humorous, but necessity to hear. And then what's going to happen? All of these things are going to come crashing down, and you and I, the average Joe, is going to be hurting, unable to pay rents, unable to pay mortgages. Well, unless you're locked in a fixed rate, low interest mortgage. And if you are, don't move, man. Go to the grocery store, and you're not going to be able to afford nothing but the cheapest food they want you to eat because it's going to kill you. I mean, come on. It's coming. You need to be ready and outside that system. And again, that I advocate, and I'm going to keep putting it in here a little bit because we're already almost an hour into this live stream here. Cryptocurrency, DCAing into cryptocurrency, putting it aside, holding it aside long term. You need to be able to maybe even put yourself into additional streams of income, whether that's starting an additional business, or I know we got a lot of miners in here, setting up different mining rigs to create additional streams of income, even within the cryptocurrency space. Then also doing what? DCAing into things, precious metals, gold, that kind of thing. Again, if you're looking to do that, link to Acre Gold in the description of this live stream, $50 a month, mailed right to your door. You can't get any better than that. And then what? You need to be able to learn how to utilize those assets now before you need them then. But let's get to this. Let me bring this up on the screen. We'll listen to her, and then we'll wrap this puppy up here. All right, let's listen to Whitney.
So obviously, when you're talking about the powers that be, there's competing factions, right? Not all of them agree, but they agree about a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the way these people operate isn't that similar to how people rulers operated hundreds of years ago. They want complete and control control of money and political power and power more broadly, because then they can do whatever they want for themselves and have a double standard for themselves, but force other people to live a certain way to support their lifestyle, right? And essentially what we're seeing here is an effort to use technology to entrench that in unprecedented ways so that there's no more need to worry about the peasants revolting.
Right.
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 I think
Right,
that's ultimately what it comes down to. So as an example, this push for a regulated internet and the end of online anonymity and all of that is directly related to the fact that it's a mathematical inevitability that our debt-based monetary system will collapse at some point, and that the banking system, particularly Wall Street and its global equivalents, have engaged in an unprecedented degree of malfeasance and corruption and insane financial gambling
That's putting it very nicely.
activities. And just like 2008, right? That's going to explode at some point. But in 2008, people knew it was the banks and they were mad at the banks, weren't they?
Right.
So if you're the banks and you know that's going to happen again, and you're in bed with the intelligence agencies and the government, or in the case of the US, you own the central bank, right? You don't want that to happen again. So how do you find a way to blame somebody else for the financial system imploding? And when you bring the financial system back, what do these people, people like Jamie Dimon and all these top bankers, like, what is their ideal scenario for money?
I just want to pause that for a minute because, why do you think when Elizabeth Warren was, trying to propose this bill and decided she was going to set up like hearings on the Senate and stuff like that, why do you think Jamie Dimon was there? I mean, come on. You got this guy who's sitting here telling you, oh, Bitcoin's bad, used for money laundering, yeah, blah, 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 because he wants to maintain the control. He wants to maintain his ability to be able to influence the system, not to mention the fact that behind the scenes, he's doing it anyway. And if you don't believe that, all I can say is shame on you. I mean, look at the Bitcoin ETFs. JP Morgan Chase listed as a controller in those. End of story. It's there. It's out there. It's public information. But yet you got JP Dimon sitting here at let's be fair, a scripted Senate hearing that I'm sure him and Warren were all about before the hearing even happened, and to get the story straight and get it out there that, oh yes, crypto bad, we need to be able to is she interviewing Luke Wilson? I don't know. No, this is Peter McCormack, What Bitcoin Did. Again, link to that in the chat. All right, let's get back to this. It's got about another minute, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. Okay, so let's get back to this.
And how people interact with and use money. Well, being able to grift as much as you want and take as much as you want from the people under you without them knowing or complaining, because that's what they've been doing for decades, right? Wall Street. So they want to keep doing that. They don't want to change their behavior. So they want to find a way to be able to steal from the underclass as much as possible without the underclass complaining or revolting, and control how they spend their money. And control their financial and other behavior so that they can maintain their place on the top.
Right.
So what we're having is the engineering of a neo-feudal society where you have the small upper class and then a massive underclass that the upper class can manipulate and control and do whatever they want with as they see fit. And so that's what I think the ambition of a lot of these various initiatives we're seeing for unprecedented control and surveillance are aimed at. And the goal is to use technology, whether it's AI or any of these other emerging technologies, to be able to do that, because obviously there's so much more of us than there are of them.
Exactly.
And so in order to scale what they want to scale, to be able to deal with the huge difference in size between their class and our class, they feel like, they need these emerging technologies. They need AI. And that's why I think I see AI as a largely negative thing, because the people that want to do this are the ones setting it up and programming it and deciding what its objectives are, you know.
Okay, at the end of the day, she ain't wrong about that. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that. So, all right. I'm hoping I helped you to move into a better understanding today with the help of all these videos. And again, links will be in the description of this live stream to go ahead and watch those all in their entirety. And I suggest subscribing to all those channels because guess what? You're going to get great information from all of those channels, every single one of them. I hope you understand, again, money as it stands in our current society is debt. Debt creation every time and on a personal consumer basis, you take out a loan to service whatever, buy a house, get a car, whatever the case may be. I mean, think about it. These days, in order to survive, people are having to max out their credit cards just to go to a damn grocery store and get food. It's insane. I mean, and the banks put out this information. So it's not like I'm making this up. A little bit of Googling, you can find all this information yourself. People's credit card balances are at all-time highs. Delinquencies on credit cards are all-time highs. Like we mentioned even yesterday, delinquencies with regard to like car loans, all-time highs. So they're creating the debt. Then they need to service that debt, pay it off. In order to do that, they're doing what? They're printing up more debt, more money, which debases the currency, increases the inflation rate, and then it just spirals and spirals and spirals out of control. And that's where we're at right now, where it's getting to the bottom of the barrel. It's getting to the point where they're needing to do more and more totalitarian things in order to keep the system afloat as long as humanly possible. And you know, at some points they want to do it more than others. And this 2024 is a year, you know, especially here in the United States, they don't want to be dealing with this during a presidential election year. That's a whole nother live stream for another day. So again, what can we do? Me and you. How do we prepare? I've been saying it this whole time. It was literally the impetus, the answer in the entire live stream on Monday. You need to be able to have yourself outside the system. You need to have yourself insulated from what's coming. Part of the way I see to do that, part of the way I'm trying to do that is by dollar cost averaging into cryptocurrency. Yes, holding it for the long term, but I'm going to say this. Potentially having some put aside that you can take profits on later and redirect it into other locations, whether that's creating another stream of income in the form of a business or investing in something such as real estate or whatever it happens to be. Also setting yourself up with some additional streams of income. Again, I know I've got a lot of miners here in this live chat right now. Having that even as your additional stream of income, or again, starting a business, whatever it is, as an additional stream of income. Also, dollar cost averaging into precious metals, gold. Links to all this stuff in the description of this live stream. And finally, being able to function outside the system now before you need to function outside the system later. And, you know, how soon... Exactly. Miners unite. I like that. I mean, I'm sorry. That was when I first got into the cryptocurrency space back in early 2017. It was literally talking with a couple of buddies of mine. For those who may or may not have heard my origin story, if you would, in crypto, it was literally to mine Bitcoin with some GPU rigs that my buddy put together because that was his deal. You know, mining, as you know, if you've been on this channel, is not necessarily my gig, but we did do it, mining Bitcoin back in 2017 with, you know, some 1050s, 1060s, you know what I'm saying? And the idea was to just earn a little bit of extra money by mining Bitcoin. So to say, now I'm not saying you have to mine Bitcoin here, but that was where and what brought me into the space. And like Automatic Beats says here, miners unite. Exactly. Whatever it is that you want to mine, if that's your additional form of income, so be it, as far as I see it. So be it. And again, other options, whatever those other options are. But knowing how to be able to take profits, when to be able to take profits, because again, these markets are going up. We know we're going into a bull cycle. Take profits. And then cycling those profits into whatever, in my opinion, additional streams of income, because you want to know what? You've only got so much time. You can only do so much of this. And you need to be able to have additional income coming in, all the time. What was the quote? I can't remember who said it. Something about bringing in money when you sleep. I think that was a Warren Buffett quote or something. I'm sorry, I didn't come prepared to highlight that, but that's the idea. That is literally the idea. So I hope you found this live stream helpful. I really do. I hope you have now maybe a better understanding, or at least opened up a couple of avenues for you to explore more about exactly what money is, about what debt is, about what servicing debt entails, and the potential debt spiral as we get into over $34 trillion in debt right now in this country, and how you can point yourself in directions to soften the blow, if you would, when it comes. Thank you, Automatic Beats. Appreciate that. So I'm hoping that was helpful. So where are we going from here? Tomorrow, I've got, well, you're not going to see it tomorrow, but I'm going to be doing an interview with Jason, who is the gentleman we talked about with regard to online gaming and P2E. And I'm going to be recording that interview tomorrow, editing it up, and it'll probably air next week. So stay tuned for that. In particular, I'm going to be talking to him about the options you have for Web3 P2E gaming on Crypto on the Rocks that you help vote what we're going to dollar cost average into, so you can see what's coming up on those particular platforms, help you to decide maybe what we're going to dollar cost average into. So again, don't forget my next live stream, Friday, 7 p.m., Crypto on the Rocks. And hey, Alexander, we're actually just wrapping it up, brother. Appreciate you showing up. Truly do. But hopefully you'll be able to join me Friday, 7 p.m. with everybody else for Crypto on the Rocks. That's the next time you're going to see me here live. Unless there's something major happening in the crypto space, then I always go live for stuff that's newsworthy items. But right now, I look forward to seeing all of you Friday, 7 p.m. All right. Thank you, Alexander. I'll see you then, brother. All right. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Friday, 7 p.m., Crypto on the Rocks.